crank this old baby up and you keep. Hello guys, my name is Larry and welcome to my YouTube channel called the 956 Studio. Be sure to hit thumbs up, like, subscribe. That way you get a notice on all our future videos. Hey, today's topic, we're going to be working on the Stihl MS260 Chainsaw. Hey, what happens here is, man, you crank this old baby up and she'll idle just perfectly good. Sound like a rock star. And then all of a sudden, when you get ready, start throttling it up, it goes wah, wah, wah. See, it's bogged right on down. And then finally it just dies, like it's starving for fuel. Now there's several different things that cause that problem. So be sure to stick around, watch the rest of the video. I'm going to show you some of the causes and how to fix those causes to get this old MS260 Stihl chainsaw back up and running again, cutting them logs. Now my camera is very, very sensitive, and a lot of times if I get my hand out here to the left side of it, it'll blur the video out. So I'm going to try to avoid that as much as possible, but I know that we're going to run into that issue from time to time. Move the camera around a little bit, maybe that'll help to some extent. But again, what you got here is a Stihl MS260, and this thing, as soon as you crank it up, it cranks up no problem whatsoever. And as soon as you start pulling that throttle, it'll bog down. It's about wah, wah, wah. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this cover off right here. It's got one screw right on top. Now this actually screws into the top of the cylinder head. There you go. And then you're going to take the back cover off, pop this up, pull it straight up. Well, it's all pull it straight up. Set those to the side. Next thing you're going to have is going to be your air filter. And now we're going to take those off of there. There's two screws. They screw actually to the same stud that the carburetor uses. And it'll also, well, I didn't quite get that one all the way out. Alright, there we go. Now the screws normally stay in it. What you're going to find is this is the hole that goes over this line, this part of the carburetor here, and then these are the two screw holes. Now for those of you that do not know how the choke works, I'm going to try to get this around where you can see it better. This lever right here activates your choke. Now, in order for this to work, you see this part of the filter? This is the choke flap inside there. Now, on the back side of it, here it is. When this thing is moving, it's opening and closing that choke. Whenever you have this in a run position, it's not choking. When you hit it all the way up, it's not doing anything, but it'll kill the electricity going to the motor and it will shut down for you. So that's how your choke works if you're curious about that. Now, one of the first things that you're going to want to check, and it's usually the hardest, I'm not going to be able to pinpoint it out exactly because it's hard for me to hold the camera and show you at the same time. But if you look right down in between here, let me get this out of the way. If you look right down inside here, down this area right here, there's going to be a nipple coming off the back side of this part of the engine. And there's going to be a hose going to it, and that's what they call the impulse line. Let me see if I can get a flashlight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the camera off the stand, and I'll try to get you a closer shot of that. Now I'm going to have to hold the camera and try to show you at the same time with the flashlight in one of my hands. So hey, that is pretty tough. Well, maybe you can see from that point. If you look right down in here where I'm putting that screwdriver, which is very difficult to see, it's got a nipple coming out of there. Right now the hose is on it. But if you get to jerking this saw around, get it stuck in a log or stuck in a tree, you start pulling this handle, pulling this handle, pulling this handle, pulling this handle, you're going to find that it's going to separate that hose from this part of the engine. And when it does, it will start up and crank and run, but it will die when you throttle it up. Just like if you throttle it up, it's going to shut off for you. So that's the number one thing you need to check. Now put the pull cord back. The next thing you're going to want to check is the actual spark plug. Now I'm gonna put the camera back on the stand because it takes two hands to do what I'm about to do. You can check your spark by pulling this spark plug wire off of there. And to make it easier to pull the pull rope on compression, take your spark plug out, and I've already loosened it. That way you can pull it very easily at that point. You won't have any compression. All your compression is going out. Now, if you have a tester, that's fine. If you don't, just stick the spark plug right back in there. And if you're brave enough like myself, or crazy enough, just ground it out and pull on your pull rope. Well, I got it in the off position. So if you have it in the off position, you're not going to get any sparks. So you're going to have to bring it down, stick it back up there again. Now you got some spark there. It's not as good as I'd like it to be. The other thing you want to check is your fuel. Make sure you got fresh fuel in it. Make sure that it's not stale. And the best thing to do is dump it out anyway. And once you get it dumped out, you're going to look inside it. You're going to see a little bitty filter inside, which you can't see because I have fuel in it right now. But it's going to look similar to this one right here. And you're going to want to make sure that thing is not plugged up. Or the fuel line that comes from here that goes to where I'm about to show you, make sure it's not cracked or doesn't have any holes in it, make sure it's not dry rotted. But the filter, if it is plugged up, the screen on it, it will not run. So we've covered the fuel filter, we've covered the line that's inside the tank, and we covered the impulse line, and we covered the spark and the spark plug. Those are a few of the things. Now, next step, you need to tackle the carburetor. That is going to be the next major thing that it could be. Now, to get that carburetor loose, you're going to need a Torx tool. It'll come right over here in the bottom of it. Hopefully you can see all of this. Boy, it's tough doing this left-handed when you're right-handed. Keep all your screws together because you're going to be needing them. Put them in a safe place. Pop this straight up just like that. Put it right off there. You see how that linkage came off of there going to the carb? Now then, the next step you want to go to is there's a line right here that comes from the fuel tank up and goes up here to the carburetor. Now I'm going to have to probably knock your video out. Pop it off just like that right there. You can have gas run everywhere. So anyhow, we're back to it. We pop this fuel line off. Bloops and blunders, I just made one. Fuel line's off, the linkage is loose. Next thing is get the carburetor off. It's going to take a 5/16 or 9mm socket. And we're going to start loosening it up. Takes a while to get those nuts off of there because they're on that thread. Like I said, put them in a safe place. Now then, reach in there and work that carburetor side to side. Sometimes you may have to coerce it a little bit with a screwdriver, like I'm about to do, like right there. Pull that carburetor out, watch your linkage, voila, there's your carburetor. Some situations, you can take this carburetor apart, rebuild it, put your new diaphragm in there, and everything had to work fine, but most cases it's just about as best step I find is to do is to go ahead and just replace it. So what I did was I went out and I bought me a kit on Amazon and eBay, one or two. You got a new carburetor, got a new fuel line, got a new fuel filter, got a new spark plug, got a new air filter, got another line for the impulse line, and it even came with 2 gaskets. So that all together cost me something like $18. That's kind of hard to beat right there. So you're going to install this basically the same way that you took it apart, and that is not very hard to do. Now, that gasket looks fine to me, but you know, for the purpose of the video, we're just going to reuse it. Now you're going to take your linkage. Let me get this saw out of the way right now. Take your linkage off of it. This one. And you're going to lay them side by side to make sure the carburetors are exactly the same. Now, everything I can see tells me it's the right carburetor. Looks good to me. And then you're going to go back over here, and you're going to have to make sure you put this linkage in here before you decide to go back together with this, because you're not going to get it in there afterwards. Arranged in a situation just like that, because you want this curved in that position lined up with this up here. Now then, make sure you got the fuel line out of the way. Set this back in here like so. And make sure that you do not pinch these wires right here. You got to bring that fuel line back at the same time. There we go. Like I said, check back in here. Make sure that you don't pinch them two wires right there. Your start on and off wires. Once you're happy with that, then go ahead and put your screws back in it. Or your nuts, I should say. Put your nuts back on it. Kind of lengthy. Tighten those up. I sure hope the video doesn't blur out. I've tried every setting in the world on this Canon EOS M50, and if any of you have one that can help me change the settings to make it more beneficial for the video making, please pass those on to me. Okay, now you need to get you a pair of needle nose. You're going to need to install that fuel line, which is right here. It goes right on the bottom of that carb. Right there. But I see that fuel line needs to be turned up a little bit. Now I want to point out something. I ran into an issue with this carb. This is an aftermarket carb, so that's one of the reasons why I don't like to go with aftermarket. They're never the same exactly. And I'm gonna point out what I saw on this one. You see the angle of this right here? It's not the same on the other one that I ordered. This one is curving, the other one is curving down a little bit more. So it's creating a problem with the hose. When it comes out here, it's more directly down, and then it comes across, which I'm gonna try to see if it works. If not, I'm gonna order another carb. And then you gotta make sure that this nipple down here on the bottom goes into the impulse line that's further up in there. Which it looks like it did. So hopefully we'll be able to use this carb. If not, we're going to go ahead and take it off and return it and get us an OEM carb. We've made it to the point where we've retightened the spark plug. We put the spark plug boot back on it. So that's all finished. We got the carburetor pushed back in there. Even though we got a little friction here when we tighten it back down, we're going to see if it's going to run all right. If it doesn't, we'll take it off, send the carburetor back to the manufacturer we bought it from. Next, we're going to do is put the handle in. Next thing. Now, this one right here, oh boy, there we go. Got to make sure that it's loose and it's free. Make sure that it's facing that direction. And do like that, make sure that it's free. Now what you're going to do is you're going to put this button back in there for comfort. There we go. Now this snaps back in there. It's pretty self-explanatory. And you'll trigger it back and forth to see that it's working properly, and it is. Now then you need to make sure that this, it'll have some tension on it, so you need to, turn spring goes underneath this button right here. And you see how that works? And then you're going to put this back in there like so. And there is no locking mechanism on this outside of this. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to have to break the camera. I'm going to make sure that stays in place. Stick this right in there like so. Pop it down. Hold it down, make sure it works. Put your screw back in the bottom of it. Well, we're down to the end of it. Next thing, you got all these put in place. Now, I did have some problems with the throttle, this popping back up, so I'm going to have to go dig back in there and see what the hell's going on here. So, but I'll do that later to make the video a little shorter. Now then, we're going to put this back in place, make sure that this part and this part is correct. This is the part that goes on the nipple part with the your, just like so. Push it in place. Get your screwdriver and tighten these. Now finish tightening that up. Then you can go ahead and start it and see if it runs. Okay, well, now's the time to tell if this old Stihl MS260 is going to run after I did the work I did. There's a couple things I didn't show you, but I believe if you follow the video, you'll get yours to run. Let's see if this one's going to run. Let's see if it starts there first. Now we know that it starts and we know that it runs, so we've obviously fixed the problem. However, the next step is going to be fine-tuning it. We're going to be tuning it with the idle screw and the low and the high. And that'll be in my next video. So like, subscribe, see the next videos, and we'll show you how to fine-tune that car that you just put on your chainsaw or put on your Stihl MS260 Chainsaw. Guys, I hope some of the information I shared with you was valuable enough that you do hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We're just a small mom and pop channel. And by doing that, you help us get this video out there to reach other people that may have the same chainsaw and may have the same problem. Still, I have to say this about it. They've got to be the world's #1 chainsaw. I've got probably 15 different saws. Some of them are Stihl, some of them are Chinese, some of them are Echo, Mac, and I'm going to be restoring some of those. So, thumbs up, like, subscribe. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.